Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Oxygen Not Included. This is the game that we're revisiting today and what a day it is because I love this game so much. It's easily one of my top 10 favorites. It's on deep sale at the moment. There is a DLC that expands it greatly. Arguably it's one of those DLCs that is sort of a must. However, if you've never played this before and you just want to dip your toes, the base game will suit you just fine. But when you start to get into the mid-game to late-game development, Spaced Out is a real game changer. You go to different asteroids, different planetoids, and set up sort of trade and back and forth and travel, and yeah, it's a real game changer. Anyway, we're going to jump straight into this. What is Oxygen Not Included? It is a Clay product, which should be enough for you to buy it immediately because everything Clay makes is fantastic. We're going on Spaced Out mode. What is this? Oh, they've changed the sort of UI. Oh, right, okay. You still got this, so you can choose from the planet you start on. Now, all of these little planetoids will be in the game, but I guess we'll just go with the default. Oh, okay, look, wow, look at all this stuff. It's a lot of information to take in. Survival chance ideal. It's got story traits as well. Okay, whatever, that's fine. We're just going to go with that. That's great that they've added even more stuff. It's been a while since I played this, and I really, really do like it. So it's a colony management game. Like I said, Clay made it. You can see it in the art style. Probably most famous these days for Don't Starve. They make a lot of different games in a lot of different genres, and they're all pretty good. Invisible Ink is one I keep meaning to go back to. Might be one of their more niche ones that most don't know about. We just start with the default dudes. At its core, it is a colony management game. It's got this ant farm side-scroller thing. It's very cutesy, but don't let that fool you. It might be one of the more hardcore, I don't want to say physics-based, but ideal gas laws play into it a lot. However, it has its own rules on like gas expansion. You can see you have gas overlays. This is oxygen. This is CO2. And you can see it's like a gram per unit square density. And a good example would be down here it's probably denser carbon dioxide, 1152, and up here 400, right? Because it's heavier. So you let it go and the game has a natural sort of gas system where the heavy ones sink to the bottom and you know, oxygen will go to the top, or something lighter like hydrogen would actually go higher still, right? So you got to keep you guys in an oxygen-rich environment. You don't want them going down here too long. They can hold their breath. So it's got a comical component that they literally hold their breath and they'll be all right. But there's also like a very serious science engineering component to it. But yeah, like I said, for example, one of the quirks of this game, just to labor on this because it is kind of important, is you can't have two types of gases occupying one square. And you'll have situations like this where you have very low density gas, and if you just watch them, you'll see them move, and they swap squares, so they move through each other. So like in an instantaneous moment, they won't ever be in the same square. And that's how sort of airflow works in this. It's more of a physical consideration. Anyway, so let's get the ball rolling, because you start here, you've got your little printing prod. We've got our scene world, and this sort of starting biome here is at a good temperature. Heat death is a thing that will kill most of your colonies, especially when you're learning the ropes. You can see up here, maybe there's like a cold biome over here, something warm. Maybe there's a geyser over here. Looks like there's some sort of structure we can go explore. The edge of the map isn't too far, or it's hard to tell there, but you can still see a little bit of the glow there. However, up and down, there is a bottom, and at the top is space, where you can, you know, launch rockets and all that sort of stuff as well. So you sort of want to, in the long form, expand out. You only have a few limited buildings in the beginning. Well, I don't know. I build very idiosyncratically, and it triggers anyone. I used to do playthroughs of this. Let's see. It'll give you little hints up here. We'll get rid of these. But we need an oxygen generator, and we need an outhouse. The outhouse is actually probably very important. You can see here, that's in the plumbing section. Let me think about this. What will I do? How did I used to lay these bases out? I do something like that, and then I do like that for a door, and then maybe we'll make it like so. All the hotkeys are coming back to me. So let's just dig a little room out there. We'll put an outhouse in there. And in the medicine section, you've got wash basin. We'll just let them get building. And so they need all the dirt and sandstone to create these wall tiles. You do have a physics system around, like for example, this sand. If you dig out underneath it, that sand will collapse down. So you've got to be careful of that. You've got harder rocks. And there's an RPG system to your dudes that, like, for example, you could make someone good at super hard digging or super duper hard digging. You can give them a little matching hat as well. So there are certain, in fact, you can see there, we can't actually dig them because we don't have a dude with the ability to dig them. So there's all sorts of complex stuff going on. This is probably my favorite colony manager. I would say it is, absolutely, even though I haven't played it in a little while. Now, we're getting these warnings here. What are these warnings? Insufficient water, right? Because they need water in the wash basin. Now, managing your water reservoirs is tough because you do have, what would it be? Infection levels. Can we see anything? There's slime lung. That's really bad because if your dudes get that in their lungs, it'll kill them. So you got to be careful with your air management around that. But you can get sort of food poisoning and that in your water. So this water is clean as anything. So you want to avoid letting people piss in it or you know, that sort of thing. Also, if we were to dig straight through to this wall, it's just going to leak into our colony. So it's sort of sitting in a kind of natural reservoir. You know what I mean? Maybe we can leverage that. Maybe we can do something with that. I mean, alternately, we've got some water down here. I like the idea of having a water sump under my base. That's just how I am. Maybe we do this. Let's do that. They're going to need ladders to get down there. So they should be able to use the toilet. Now the point of the wash basin, you can change this arrow. This arrow is sort of a very basic programming direction in that if you pass unilaterally, how do you change it? Sec direction? There you go, you can change the arrow. But you can go to both. Essentially, if someone transits in the direction of the arrow, they will wash their hands if they're above the infection threshold. Because you can see here, the toilet's a generator. So if someone goes in here and has a shit, it's going to create infection. Germs, it's what they call it, right? Food poisoning germs. You've got all sorts here. There's the slime lung that we talked about. So you sort of want to come up with a system to try and control the sort of propagation. I was trying to think of the word of germs and infection and so on. Let's see, plumbing. Let's put a pump. There. Let's do that. Let's do that. B to copy. That should work out. It's drowning all my plants down here. I don't really care. You gotta be careful you don't let them stand in the water for too long. Now, he just drew this. This draws water from below it. He just drew a pump and then he filled it up. So now we've got water, and you can see all the UI elements. You can see the water and the wastewater that this has accumulated. We're going to need to deal with the wastewater as well. A lot going on. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Oxygen generator, need a food source. These are all true. I might start working on... I like the idea of having these, like, I call them Jeffrey's tubes because they're a bit of a cheeky wink at the camera, right? But I really like the idea of having little Jeffrey's tubes underneath my base. One, two, three, four. Something like that. Let's do that. Because you sort of need a transit solution. Once your base gets bigger, you need to deal with that. And then you can actually create like sort of vacuum elevators to zip your dudes around the base faster. There's a lot of tech. We will get to that in just a second. What I might even do, make the food storage store everything at 9 priority. But what we'll do is we'll build a research. Well, where would we put the research? I was going to put it there, but that's sort of where my kitchen's probably going to go. What if we go research station here? And then power. We need a power generator. I don't know, we'll just slap that in there temporarily. And batteries, what we might do is we'll put a battery up there. I can't get at it just yet. Now, obviously, everyone's going to come up with their own idiosyncratic way of building out bases and that. You gotta be careful you don't overtask your dudes, otherwise you won't get anything done. But I build in these sort of unit blocks that are very, very compact. And, you know, fucking sweatlord losers that have nothing better to do come in here and write me paragraphs about how I'm wrong. And that's always fun. You've got this this oxalite, which is sort of kind of unique to the starting biome, pretty much. It emits oxygen at a certain rate as it decays, right? And it's not emitting anything there because we're probably at max pressure for the area. Probably can't get any pressure circulation. But that sort of buys you that starting time to build up your industry, which is, you know, an issue with all colony builders is coming up with a system like that. Look at RimWorld. They have like... everyone gets a mood buff for the first however long while your colony sucks, essentially, right? It looks like they dug that plant out, which is good. I want to put a battery there, and I'm going to run some cable through there. And so this is a generator. It's a hamster wheel that your dudes jump on to start up the power. But that'll be good so we can get some rudimentary research going. Now, what I generally do is, because in the early days you don't really have a lot of filtration or HVAC systems or any ways to really handle CO2 very well. So I create a sump, is what I call it, in the bottom of my base. Think of an oil sump, but not. More of an oxygen sump. More of a CO2 sump, actually. And what I generally would do is I'll put an O2 generator here, which they jam algae and water into it and it puts out oxygen. However, it's very aggressive at using up those resources. And you can sort of create this floating system where you can sit the CO2 in the bottom of your base because it's a heavy gas. And then as it starts to creep up into the bottom of the base, that gives you an idea of, well, maybe I have to dig the sump out bigger, right? So it's essentially digging a hole to deal with your problems. But in the early days, when you don't really have the tech or capacity to deal with your problems properly, I think it's a fairly elegant solution, to be honest. So they're probably not loving that. Yeah, see that? That's their oxygen meter there. He's getting it back now because he's gone into a little bit of an oxygen pocket. And she's catching her breath. Okay, so we've got our little research thing set up. So here we go. Sit down for this research tree. There's a few things on it. A couple. And it is left to right. So what do we actually want to research at the moment? Because I don't really care that much. It's more that I just wanted to show you where it goes. In fact, since that's the case, you can see here we've got plumbing systems, air filtration and generation systems, sanitation, so like automatic plumbed toilets that they don't have to empty manually. You get into more advanced research here as well. Look at this, you can get a bloody space scanner, all sorts of cool stuff. What's up here? Radbolt engine, oh my god. So a huge part of it that came with the DLC is building a spaceship, which is a mini base, like very, very, very tiny, but you fill it with all sorts of stuff and you put engines and different sections on. It's not KSP, you know, you're not really dealing with like orbital mechanics. However, still the building off of a rocket ship unit is quite robust. I would argue like one of the major parts. The monument is a mid-game victory condition. If you click here and you go colony summary, you can see here, oh, what is this? Have they added a new win condition? That's cool. Anyway, so this is the old school win condition. Survive for 200 cycles, which means you have to deal with heat death. You have to get the population up to 12, and you have to get your average morale up to a certain point and build the monument. So it's still tough, but it's not really contingent on having to travel through space. Whereas this one, you've got different conditions there. And what is going on there? Study different terrestrial artifacts in the analysis state. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool, because that wasn't around when I played this last, and I definitely played it in version 1.0. So they're still adding new victory conditions, all sorts of cool stuff. There's some achievements down here that you can do. Anyway, lots to do. You got to be careful tasking them into the water too much, because they can get hypothermia, and then they get sick, and you have to deal with it. You probably want to build them beds, because they do get little debuffs. Sore back, for example, you can see he's got a -1 to his athletics line, because he didn't sleep on a bed. You can see here, strength -3. Carrying capacity reduced, alright? Athletics 9 is quite high. And you can see 10 -1. So it's all like, again, if you'd played RimWorld, there's a lot of complex stuff here if you poke it. But the game also, runs for the most part without having to worry about it all that much. Anyway, so this is going to keep pumping out that O2. Which is cool. I really want to dig this out and kind of... Well, do I? Not really. That's what I kind of want to do. I guess I could mop the remaining water. Because what I also do is I sort of have a sub-base, which would be up here, separated by my little Jeffrey's tube, and then a sub-base and a base. And I do my best to not have people go into here, because that's where I put all the toxic gases and that. So having the ability to draw water is something that I usually work towards. I'll put this pump up in the main base, and then create like a pump reservoir in below that's all automated, so then they can draw it remotely and it pumps up into a little float. So that's the thing, you can come up with all sorts of harebrained concoctions and inventions and all sorts of crap. Maybe not concoctions, but you know what I mean. Alright. Colony requires food source, might as well do that as well. Get the basics down. Now, you can get them to build tier 1 food, which is essentially like water and dirt, I believe. So pretty awful stuff, and they hate it, but it's better than nothing. The thing is, it's a huge draw on water. It's a huge draw on power. If you're already thinking ahead, you're probably starting to realize, okay, we're going to run out of this water, especially when a lot of the stuff we're doing draws heavily on it. And that's where geysers come into it. So you can find geysers on the map. I mean, there's ice in here, but it's polluted ice, so it would require some form of purification. Which we'll get back to that in a sec. But geysers you can tap, and they are generally infinite resources of, well, their resource. And these days you can get brine water, natural gas, oil, obviously just fresh water. And they will have properties. Some of them it will be permanently freezing cold. Some it will be permanently red hot. In fact, I don't think any geyser is not extreme in its temperature. So then you have to do temperature management. If you go and tap a boiling hot steam geyser, okay, cool. Now you've got infinite water, but you've got infinite fucking heat as well. What are you going to do about that? Because that heat will kill your base eventually. So lots of things to think about. What I was going to just say as well, to give you an idea of how deep it goes. Polluted water, you can see it here, right? You don't really want polluted water. you want to clean it, you can put it through filtration systems. But what you can also do is you can create like cooling towers, stuff like that, right? You can take steam and put it in like, and I've done this before, you can build like a huge fucking tower. And as the air cools, it will state change. State change in this game is a very big deal. It's something that Stationeers misses and kind of kills me because I find state change is the magic. So you can essentially have steam cool, or you can superheat polluted water to change state into steam, which cleans it. And then when it cools, through whatever system, you can put it through a cold biome or ice, or you can make like a cooling tower like I'm suggesting, where as it travels further and further up and gets into more surface area contact with colder bits of wall, it will then cool and state change back to water, and then you can have clean water converted. Or you can put it through a black box machine like a filtration unit as well. So that's probably what's really good about it. There are black box solutions for people that don't want to overthink it, but they always have a downside. Usually it's heat generation. Like you can use aquifers and all that to try and clean water, but it will pump out an incredible amount of heat. What else are we going to do? Well, we might just get some research going, because it couldn't hurt. Listen to them snoring. I mean, probably the food situation up here. Basic farming, right? So we'll plug that in, get some composting going, which is really helpful because that's another resource that's generated, is polluted dirt. The toilet's going to create polluted dirt, and we're going to have to resolve that. Now we probably need a bit of a storage solution, and for now, we can do something like that. That's probably overkill, Scarlet, but whatever. Gives them something to do. The other thing is, all the shit just lies on the floor. There is a... Where is it? F11, maybe? No, that's the room overlay. We'll get to that. I'm taking screenshots by accident. What am I looking for? Decor, however you want to call it. So, as your dudes level up, and as you make them like a highest tier professional, as we covered like here, maybe they become like a super duper mechatronics engineer, they have this skill point offset, right? So if I'll just hover over it, but you can see over here. See here, this dude's morale is 3, because he has 3 green pips from, I don't know, whatever, had a good meal. He's feeling good about themselves. But as you give them more tasking jobs, it gives them a negative morale offset, which you need to overcome. And often you're going to have to do that with better decor, living standards, higher quality food, that sort of thing. So now they've got somewhere to actually store all that food. We should probably dig this out. So he's researching, he's charging. They're cheering because they feel pretty good about themselves, I guess. Oh man. And then over here, these diagnostics they added in recent times. Recent, probably the last year or two. I've been following this game ever since it first dropped. It gives you a glance. At a glance, tells you what's going on. That you need beds. You've also got all your resources, but you could hide that. See all. There you go. Entomb. So you see, you can click up all of these diagnostics to give you an idea of research reactor, battery. Okay. So just to keep an eye on, maybe if something drops off, you need more power over a certain threshold or whatever, you can essentially set your own warning systems. Alright, and then there's bill systems for food. What we're going to do with this one, this is what I do. Everyone's different. But here's some basic recipes that we have at the moment. Mush bar. Dirt and water, gristly food. It's awful. I'm going to tag it as make it forever. I'm going to put it on priority 9. And then I'm actually going to hit enter, which toggles the enable building button. Now the reason for doing this little setup is this dude's going to go over and he's going to turn it off. And as soon as we get a food warning up here saying that we don't have enough food in the colony, you know, it starts to bottom out, all I have to do is go to this machine and hit enter, and they'll come and turn it back on, and they will start making shit food forever. Alright? I think it's a fairly elegant little solution in the early game. Now, this thing charges up over time. That's why we've got this here. And we can choose to import a new dude, or we can get a care package, or we can just reject it, but I don't think you get any bonus for doing that. So, you know, they've got all the different traits, they've got their skills. At the moment, I don't give a shit, right? You'll do. Bang. Welcome to the family. Now go to work. There is, of course, up here, priority systems as well, which work priority you've probably seen in things like RimWorld. Standard fare for this sort of game. For the moment, they're just cleaning up the place, which is cool. We got that research ticked off. I don't know. Let's just go meal prep here as well. So what have we got here? We've got an algae terrarium, which you can see there, converts algae to produce oxygen and removes some carbon dioxide. It's a very basic, low efficiency scrubber, but you know, we could put that to use. We've got very tier 1 planter box so we can start farming, because at the moment we don't really have a long-term food solution other than dirt, but even then, dirt and water, but we don't have a water solution, you know, so getting plants going. We can build the ration box, which is handy, and composting for polluted dirt. And you can see it gives you little exclamation marks telling you that you need to build these. Cultivatable soil is missing. How is that missing? Sublimation station is more like an oxygen diffuser, but if we chose a different planet. There are other planets that aren't this hospitable at the beginning, like they're like mud, for example, and you have to deal with a lot of muddy silt. Oh my god, why did I reinstall this? I'm going to play this so much. You know, when you come back to one of your favourite games and then you're just like, well, that's me now. We could deconstruct this ration box and move it because we now know how to build one. B. Didn't I tell you to deconstruct this box? Cancel deconstruction. Oh, they are on work break, so they stop and they eat and they socialise at the end. So, you know, I probably should be looking after them, but I'm also not. Mate, what a game. It's good to be back. Anyway, I think I've covered most of the basics. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and gush. It's a fantastic game. Many, many hours there. I usually say, like, maybe if you aren't into colony sims, will this convert you? I think this is the one that's the best chance of converting you into colony sims. Because while I can understand that it's very scary how complex it is, I find the art and the general sort of humour of these dudes just being a bit silly to make it a little bit more accessible. And generally speaking, it's probably the most polished of them all. As much as I love RimWorld, I do love RimWorld, I almost wonder if this might be more accessible than RimWorld. Purely because of the aesthetic. Again, this is talking toward people that are not familiar with the genre and maybe want to give it a go. However, I'm also very, very aware that in its mechanics, it's probably more complicated than anything else on the market. So maybe my biases play into that. Anyway, get it. It's cheap. Scarlet recommends. Scarlet says top 10. Anyway, team, we might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.